Hi, welcome. So this video is going to be on the new launch from Lisa Eldridge, her Seamless Skin Foundation, which I just got the sample set in Light 2, and I was very excited to try out this launch. Lisa is so incredibly thoughtful with each and every one of her launches. She has a really good overview on this one in particular, which breaks down her backstory on when she first started getting into building a foundation formula, and then all of her learnings throughout the process. And overall, it's just very clear that she's really passionate about what she does, and she really wants to make something that she thinks will work for a lot of people. And I can see that also reflected in the way that she decided to launch this product, and that is one of the things that is most impressive to me, because she's obviously a small business, small brand for now, primarily only online. I know she had a few pop-up shops, but for the rest of us, only accessible online. And she launched with 40 foundation shades, where the lightest is incredibly light and the darkest is incredibly dark. I think this is the best foundation shade range I've ever seen. Yeah, even considering ones that might have more than 40 shades. This one is just so comprehensive. There's a really beautiful gradient in between all the shades, and they also include very thoughtful undertones to each of the shades in between. So everything is just broken down into, I think, a very accessible amount of shades. Another thing that I was really impressed with by how she decided to launch this product was, for $3 you can go and get these sample sets online, and I live in the US, so I get free shipping. So for only $3 I can try out and test and see whether I like the formula and exactly which shade I should be. So it comes in sets of 4 adjacent shades. So set 2 has shade number 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I think that's really smart, because someone will probably know generally what they are, and usually when you're shopping online, you kind of know what range you're in, but then you just kind of try and pick one, and it says neutral, but whatever, you just see how it is. But with this, you can actually compare and contrast against the other ones that you might have randomly thrown your dart at otherwise, and actually see how the differences compare on your skin. And I just feel between the shade range and the very affordable and easily accessible sample cards, it makes me feel I'm very welcome to try this product out. It's just oh, I feel Lisa has made it so that she's tried to think of everything that a consumer might want or need in order to feel confident buying this very expensive foundation. So it is very expensive because it's beautiful packaging. It's 1 fluid ounce for $61, so that definitely puts it up to luxury pricing. But it does have that luxurious packaging, as well as a prestige brand name makeup artist to go along with it, as well as a very, very thoughtful formula. But I appreciate that on top of all this, it's made accessible through her shade range and the easy to get sample cards. The only downside that I might think of is sometimes her stuff goes out of stock, but that's kind of been a common problem that just occurs because she's popular, but also kind of a small brand. I don't know. In any case, I have been trying out these 4 shades for the past few days now, and I'll show you. I have 5, which is a light neutral, 6, which is light with golden undertones, 7, which is still light, still neutral, but a little bit deeper. I think it's a little bit less pink than 5, at least in this tin right now, and then 8, which is light with peachy undertones, and I wanted to show them swatched on my neck, as well as I can show you right now here on my hands. 5 is and 7 are quite neutral, and I do think 7 just looks a little bit deeper than 5. The weird thing is though, I felt like 5 when spread out, maybe it kind of oxidized or something. I felt like it got a little bit deeper, so it's very, very close to 7 by the time it's all spread out. So I guess just keep that in mind. This formula claims to not oxidize, but nevertheless. And then 6 and 8, I think it's really nice to see the difference between like a golden and a peachy undertone. They are like a bit different, where the peachy one is a bit more salmony orange. I feel like these two are not quite my skin tone. I went with 7 as my best color match, and that's what I'm wearing today. But I actually suspect that my best shade might be number 9, which is in the next set of shade ranges, and that one is light with like a bit of olive green undertone, because I've always felt that like my neck is quite green, and it's a little hard to tell because I have a lot of redness in my face, so sometimes I can think that like, oh, maybe a little peachy, but I think I'm like neutral, maybe a little bit olive. Either way, I'm wearing 7 and I think it works well now, but if it was just a hint more yellow or green, I think that would be most ideal for me. But this is what I have access to, and of these all, I'm happiest with 7 all over my face. I've tried like most of these colors by now, and yeah. So I guess that's just reference if you are similar to me. Getting into the formula itself, I have been trying these out for a few days. I'm just going to use them up until like all the product in the sample packs are gone. I don't think I'm going to be purchasing this foundation myself, despite it being very impressive. Okay, so putting it all on today, I want to highlight that I have like this pretty nasty zit. I've had it for like about a week. It's fading now, but that was like a good example of how much coverage it gives. It was very, very red before. I have this patch of redness, and I'm not really sure why. It's just kind of itchy right there. Doesn't have to do with the foundation, so ignore that. But yeah, I have a lot of acne scarring over here that you can still kind of see peeking through. I'm not really one to wear full coverage stuff, so medium is about the most I go, but I also feel like medium is about the most that this foundation goes. Its claims are to be intelligently formulated, self-setting, that blends effortlessly with a natural looking soft focus finish, gives customizable medium coverage that fuses seamlessly with your skin. Start with a little and build to your desired level of enhanced perfection. This is about, so the amount of foundation I have, I put on a sizable dollop of foundation onto the back of my hand, and I have that entire amount blended out eventually on my skin. For me, that's like kind of a lot of foundation. Again, I'm a very like sheer wearer. Usually even if it's like medium full coverage, I will only take a tiny amount and blend it out basically. So I guess that kind of speaks to how seamlessly this foundation can build upon itself. And even though I eventually put on a noticeable amount of product spread out onto my face, it still feels very lightweight. It doesn't feel like there's any more layers built up. I do find though that if I just put one layer on, I get a very nice like light, maybe light medium coverage, and to get to that next layer of like oomph to cover my redness or whatever area that I want to get that next level of like more coverage, I find I need like at least 2 more layers on top of it. The first layer doesn't really give that much for me, so I feel like its buildability is very accessible because you do wear it in thin layers, and it is like nicely buildable, as in it never gets more cakey, but it builds very, very slowly. And I've had products that are maybe a little bit easier, or at the very least faster to work with, because like the second layer they give will blend seamlessly, but also just like it'll be like 2 times however much you put on. Whereas this, I feel like with each layer you only get like 0.5 however much you put on. I don't know what the technology is behind that, but that's just been my experience. So I feel like trying to get a pretty even coverage where like my cheeks are, at least the redness is covered up to the extent that I like, it just takes a little bit longer. And then my biggest gripe with this foundation is it's hard to catch on the camera, and like I'm sitting right in front of the window, so I feel like my skin looks very nice in this video right now. But it can definitely, even amongst like the first layer when I'm just using little, and even when I'm blending out with a beauty blender, I can definitely see it catching on little dry bits that I like couldn't see as extremely offensive dry flaky bits before. I find this happens with a lot of foundations I have, where like my skin will be not too dry or flaky and smooth to the touch, but when I put product on, it actually like will catch on little, I guess, micro flakes and emphasize them, and this one kind of does that. From this distance, I feel like no one would really notice. It is like soft blurring overall, and it just has a really nice looking like skin-like effect. But I guess just to my eyes close up, I can see a little bit of that like tiny bit of flakiness where I'm like having friction, and I just don't like that. And I have products that I feel don't do that. And I guess just given that this is a very luxury priced foundation, I wish this was one of those that didn't do that. However, let me continue on to more pros, because a big thing about this foundation is that it wears really, really nicely throughout the day. I haven't set this today. On long days I might, but I think it looks really, really nice and skin-like. I look not matte, I don't look like sweaty dewy, it just looks good. And there's no like tackiness to my skin. It just, even to touch, it feels very satin, it feels very soft, not dry, not wet. It's great. I really, really like the finish that this gives, and it's also a little bit adjustable to whatever you wear underneath. So if you're someone who's drier and wants a more dewy finish, you could use like an oil or a very hydrating primer, and then this foundation will take on the effect of like what skincare you had before. It's very, very much like something that wants to work with your skin as opposed to something that just sits on top. So that is super impressive. And then another thing that stood out to me is I've been trying to like test a few different foundations lately, because I've just been on the hunt. And the week right before this, I was testing out the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation, super hyped up classic. For reference, I'm between shade 3 and 5. But this one I think is comparable, but like better in, at least like with my skin chemistry or whatever. So referring back to the same zit, the Giorgio Armani one like looked pretty good over most of my face. It slightly did that like emphasizing invisible micro flaky things that this one does, as I described. However, like it made the area around this zit look really, really flaky and crepey. And moreover, that one did not wear as nicely by the end of the day, in my opinion. Like, one thing that I used to judge is how gross it gets under my like glass nose pads, and the Lisa Eldridge one does do a lot better. I would hands down purchase the Lisa Eldridge one over the Giorgio Armani personally, but given that the Giorgio Armani is such a cult classic, I feel like that does kind of say something. I think right now I'm still gonna continue my hunt and my search. I do really like how effortlessly like light medium and like comfortably long wearing this product is, because usually like when I think long wearing, I think it might like be a little heavier or more makeup-y feeling, and this one doesn't have those qualities at all. I guess one last thing to potentially mention is the packaging is very beautiful. It's like this oblong shape. The only thing is that it might be kind of annoying because it has to lay like on its side like this. I could see that being inconvenient. Doesn't really make a difference for me, and I think with that I've covered all my thoughts with this foundation so far. I hope this was helpful. I would love to hear your thoughts if you've tried this. I definitely recommend, if it's as easily accessible to you, to try out these sample cards. If anything, you might even just learn a little bit more about like your undertones or something. I think this kind of helped me figure out how I might approach shades in the future. But yeah, thank you as always for watching.